At a family dinner, my father stood up and shouted, "You've always been a disappointment." Everyone around the table laughed. I got up quietly and walked out. That was a year ago. Now, their emails are piling up, desperate for my help. I never thought I'd share this, but it's been eating at me. I'm Marcos, 27, the oldest sibling out of 3. My dad, Lionel, runs a family-owned construction supply store that's been passed down for 2 generations. Everyone works there, except me. I went my own way and started a digital marketing firm 3 years back. Last weekend was my mom's birthday, so the whole clan showed up. Uncles, cousins, the whole crowd. I brought my girlfriend Alina, who was meeting them all for the first time. Things were tense from the moment we arrived. My dad barely looked at us. During dinner, my sister Elena, 24, mentioned how business at the store was declining because a big box retailer opened nearby. Dad was clearly fuming. Then my Aunt Rachel said the worst thing she could. Well, if Marcos had just done what was expected and joined the family business, that's when Dad lost it. He banged his fork down, plates clattered. You want to know why we're struggling? Because he abandoned his family. He jabbed a finger at me. While we're busting our backs, he's off playing on computers. I stayed calm. I've offered to help bring the store online. You said no every time. Online? Real work isn't behind a screen, he spat. It got quiet. Alina grabbed my hand under the table. I took a breath. My business made 6 figures last year. I've offered help. That pushed him over the edge. He got up, face flushed, and yelled, "You're an embarrassment to this family." Then it happened. People laughed. My uncles, a few cousins, snickering like it was comedy hour. My mom stared down at her plate. Elena looked shaken but didn't say a word. I stood slowly, looking around the table at each person who laughed. "I'm done," I said. "Done being the joke. Done offering help that gets spat on. You want to cling to pride while the business burns? Go ahead." He snarled, "Run away again, coward! When that tech business of yours fails, don't expect a handout." I helped Alina to her feet, and we left. As I backed out of the driveway, she asked, "What are you going to do?" I smirked. "Wait, they'll come knocking." That night, my phone blew up. Texts from Elena and my mom. I turned it off. If they wanted me to be the black sheep, I'd embrace the role. What Dad didn't know? I'd been talking to his suppliers. Some of them were tired of his late payments and were quietly searching for new partnerships. Guess who they contacted? I ignored the early messages. Then came voicemails. "Son, call me back. He's not doing well. Ever since you left, it's all fallen apart." Delete, delete, delete. Then Elena called crying at 2 a.m. "He fired Pedro today. He's yelling all the time. Mom's scared. The store's losing contracts." I sat there, staring at my phone. He made his choice when he humiliated me. Then I dug deeper, found out his biggest supplier dropped him. A few others were considering it. The business he refused to modernize was collapsing. Pedro messaged me to meet up. I agreed. He looked worn out. "Your dad accused me of stealing in front of everyone. Me, the guy who drove for him in snowstorms." He looked at me. "You were always ahead of the curve. That's why you left, wasn't it?" He wasn't wrong. A few weeks passed. Mom sent photos of my old room. Cousins tried guilt-tripping me. Aunts left voicemails about family values. Then Lionel himself showed up outside my apartment. He stood there for an hour and dropped off a letter. No apology, just manipulation. So I made a move. I started hiring the best of his staff, Pedro included. Even Bernice, his office manager of 15 years, joined me and shared everything, from financial issues to shady practices. I opened a new office, directly across the street from his. I didn't plan it, but when the lease popped up cheap, I took it. The day my sign went up, he stormed into my office, screaming, "You're destroying me!" "Security's on their way, Lionel," I said, calling him by name. He froze, left in a rage. Soon suppliers and clients jumped ship toward me. I didn't undercut illegally. I just offered better deals, transparency, and respect. His staff, gone. Gianna and Pedro came over after one final blowout. I hired them both. Then came the crown jewel. His biggest client, Anderson Company, reached out to me after Lionel botched several orders. They signed with me instead. He had a full-blown meltdown in public. People recorded it. His reputation, gone. When I heard he was behind on rent, I did the only thing left. I bought the building. A week ago, I met them at a diner. Lionel looked defeated. "Son, I'm not your son anymore," I said. "I'm your landlord now." I handed over a folder. New lease at triple the price, and a buyout offer for his inventory at 40% value. He stood up, furious. "You can't do this. Watch me." He signed. Broken. Later, Gianna gave me an old photo of us at my graduation. I shredded it without a word. He taught me that pride mattered more than people. That money came before family. I just learned the lesson better than he did. Next week, a new sign goes up over the old store. It'll still have the family name. Just a reminder of who really won. 1 month later, the new sign went up last Friday. Marcos and Company Supply Solutions. It's clean, modern, and lit by LED strips that glow at night, something Lionel never would have approved of. I watched from my office window as a few old regulars stopped to stare. One of them walked in looking confused. This used to be Warren's place," he said. I smiled. "Used to be. Need help with pricing on bulk cement?" He walked out with a better deal than he'd ever gotten before, and he promised to send more business my way. Since taking over, we've completely overhauled the space, repainted, updated the POS system, digitized all inventory. In 2 weeks, revenue has already surpassed what Lionel's store made in a month. Former employees now have benefits, flexible schedules, and actual respect. Pedro says morale is the highest he's seen in 20 years. As for Lionel, he's gone dark, haven't heard from him or Bernice. Gianna says he spends most of his time drinking and muttering about betrayal. The man who once screamed that I was playing with computers now doesn't even own a working phone. His pride has turned to silence. But then, something unexpected happened. I got a message from my cousin Lucas, one of the loudest laughers from that infamous dinner. "Hey, Marcos. I know things got crazy. I was wrong to laugh. You've done something amazing. I'm stuck working 2 part-time jobs right now. If you have anything open..." I stared at that message for a while. Then I left it on read. Gianna dropped by yesterday with coffee and updates. "Uncle Jared's begging Mom to talk to you. Says Lionel's lost his health insurance. His car got repossessed." "Let him sell his pride," I said, sipping my drink. Gianna looked tired. "You sure you're okay?" "You've won, Marcos. He's ruined. You've proved your point." I leaned back. This was never just about proving a point. This was about showing him that respect isn't earned by fear and control. It's earned through actions. He never understood that. She hesitated. He's still our dad. I nodded. But I'm not his son anymore. Not the version he wanted anyway. Later that evening, I passed by Lionel's apartment on the way home. He was sitting on the front step staring into space. He didn't see me. Or maybe he did and chose to look away. I didn't stop. This isn't a story about redemption. This is a story about boundaries, dignity, and consequences. But maybe, just maybe, the biggest lesson here is that when you set yourself on fire to keep others warm, all they learn is how to enjoy the heat. Not this time. This time, I lit the fire and built an empire from the ashes. And for the first time in my life, I sleep peacefully knowing I didn't become like him. I became better. It had been 2 months since I took over the building and rebranded the store. Business was booming. I'd hired 5 more people, including 2 former employees of Lionel's who walked out mid-shift after he screamed at them in front of customers. I hadn't heard anything from him since that night at the diner. That is, until Gianna showed up at my office last Tuesday with an envelope in her hand and a conflicted look on her face. "He changed his will," she said, "and I think you should see what he did." I opened the letter. My name wasn't in it, not once. He'd left everything, what little was left of it, to Bernice, my mother. She never lifted a finger to stop him all these years, never once defended me. And now she was going to inherit the remains of his failure. "Do you care?" Gianna asked softly. I folded the paper and tossed it aside. Not even slightly. But I lied. Because that letter wasn't just about inheritance. It was the last nail in the coffin of a father-son relationship I'd already buried. Even in his downfall, Lionel chose spite over reconciliation. The next day, I got a phone call from one of the local banks. "Mr. Alvarez, we're reviewing an application from Lionel Alvarez. He listed you as a reference. Are you aware of this?" I nearly laughed. "I'm not just aware, I'm his landlord." There was a pause. "We thought so. Thank you for confirming." By Thursday, Lionel's business account had been frozen due to unpaid debts. Friday morning, I walked across the street and saw a notice on the old office door. Eviction warning, 14 days. He hadn't paid a dime since signing the new lease. Later that evening, Gianna texted me a photo. Lionel passed out drunk on their couch, empty bottle in hand, eviction notice clutched like a last hope. "This isn't sustainable. Mom's falling apart." I texted back. "She chose silence for 27 years. Let her finally hear the consequences." But deep down, a storm was brewing. I wasn't angry anymore. I was just tired. Tired of being the villain in a family that made me one. Tired of being told to understand the very people who never tried to understand me. Then came the final twist. Gianna walked into my office Monday morning, pale and shaking. "You're not going to believe this. Lionel filed a lawsuit." I blinked. "For what?" "Claiming coercion on the lease agreement. He's saying you used intimidation to take the property from him." I leaned back in my chair, stunned. "He's suing me for legally buying a building and offering him a contract he signed willingly." She nodded. "He's desperate, Marcos." I laughed, not because it was funny, but because the desperation reeked of something familiar. His pride, now weaponized in its dying breath. My lawyer had the whole thing tossed out within a week. The judge took one look at the documents, security footage, and voice recordings and dismissed it. Lionel never even showed up to court. That was the last straw. I had the locks changed, the store cleared out, and I had the entire place repainted. Again. this time in solid black with bold white letters across the front. It wasn't a jab, it was a truth, a legacy of pain turned into profit. As I stood across the street, watching the final box being carried out of what was once Lionel's pride and joy, a strange calm washed over me. This wasn't revenge anymore. It was justice. He built a kingdom of control. I built an empire of independence. He weaponized shame. I turned it into power. And in the end, he taught me the most valuable business lesson of all. It had been 6 weeks since I evicted Lionel. The building was now fully mine. The business was running smoothly. Revenue was at an all-time high. Reviews online were glowing, and local media even did a feature on the young entrepreneur who revived a dying legacy with modern innovation. They didn't know the full story, of course. They didn't see the bruises pride can leave. They didn't hear the laughter at that dinner table a year ago. But I did. I lived it. One evening, I was finishing paperwork in the back office when Elena, one of my newest hires, came rushing in. "Marcos, you need to come outside." I stepped out. There he was, Lionel, on his knees, right in front of the store, surrounded by the neon-lit glow of Disgraced and Company signage, in front of customers, staff, and pedestrians. He looked smaller than I remembered, thinner, weathered, a shell. "I don't have anywhere else to go," he said quietly. "I lost the apartment, the car, the business, everything. People were watching, some recording. I motioned for them to stop, then looked back down at him. "You did this to yourself," I said. He looked up at me, eyes bloodshot. "I know." A pause. "I'm not asking for money or to come back. I don't even know who I am anymore." Silence stretched between us. Gianna came up behind me, whispering, "He hasn't eaten in 2 days." I exhaled slowly. The thing about vengeance is, it only satisfies when you still care about hurting the other person. But what do you do when the person has already destroyed themselves? Do you step on their broken pieces, or do you walk away from the wreckage? I turned to Pedro, who was standing nearby. "Get him something to eat. Not here, around back." He nodded and helped Lionel up. He didn't resist, just shuffled away, hunched and quiet. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not because of guilt, but because I realized something. I won utterly, completely. And for the first time, it didn't feel like victory. It felt like emptiness. The next day, I went through old files, papers, photos, emails. One caught my attention. An old business plan Lionel had scribbled out years ago. Ideas he never followed through with. Sloppy handwriting, but passionate. I stared at those words for a long time. The next morning, I made a choice. I renamed the company one final time. I didn't do it for Lionel or Bernice or the rest of the family who only remembered me when they needed help. I did it for me. To remind myself that your legacy doesn't have to be tied to where you came from. It can be built from what you survived. Gianna stopped by that afternoon. She looked at the new sign, eyes misty. You kept the name?" I rewrote what it means. She hugged me. "He won't last long, Marcos." "I know." We both stood in silence. I didn't rebuild for forgiveness. I rebuilt for freedom. And sometimes the best closure is simply living well. He called me a disgrace, so I made it my brand. And now, thank you for watching Story. Please subscribe and hit the notification bell for more real-life stories.